All right, let's get ready to go. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Hope y'all are doing fine on this wonderful Wednesday night. Hope you're staying warm and not freezing your butt off. My good warm wishes out to my Texas friends. So I hope y'all are doing well. Trying to stay bundled up, and hopefully most of you got your power restored. I'm Kenneth Commander Shipp. This is the Commander Shipp Show. You may notice that my right to y'all, or my left, I don't know how that would look for y'all, is empty because Tom is not feeling well, so won't be on the stream tonight. So just be me, and you all can hold me accountable to make sure that I don't start a ramble fest. So we will definitely make sure I don't do that. And we got some good and bad things to talk about. Still got more fallout from the Joss Whedon things coming out with Warner Brothers, and I want to provide some insight on Ray Fisher's recent tweet regarding the WB execs, because previously Walter Haneda and the DC head Jeff Johns have been called out specifically, but he adds two more names to that. And I'm not saying it's insignificant, but I do think it's highlighting how bad the problem is over at Warner Brothers. And it just seems like we've been dumping and piling on Warner Brothers recently, and for a reason. I mean, this is even just before the Ray Fisher stuff. We were talking the contracts and things with HBO Max and AT&T. That's all going over your head. I promise I will simplify it. Other things also going on. We got some new trailers, coincidentally, some from Warner Brothers. The Justice League Snyder Cut. We got a new trailer on Sunday. Talked about it a little bit on State of Nerd Union, but I'm going to dive into it a little bit more, actually show it here and talk a little bit more, some things that stand out to me. Along with the Cruella, Emma Stone's Cruella DeVille trailer dropped today, and we'll also take a look at that later in the show. All right, but first, we got to tackle the news on the Commander Shipp Show. For those that are following along at home, remember you can always jump in the comments whenever you like, so I can see you on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. So if you'll have a comment on anything or want to have a question or have some back and forth with me, we might have a little bit more time today just because I don't have Tom with me. So I'll try to not just fill up the box with all the conversation. Like, definitely let me know if y'all have thoughts. And we'll definitely get to those. Let's see. What do we got going on? I'm also distracted a little bit by games because there's some good game news that came out today. So if you got to see the Nintendo Direct, I was supposed to be like writing on my show notes and then got distracted by that. And because the game, I guess I'll just a quick aside. If you like Zelda, Skyward Sword is getting an HD remake on the Switch. And I didn't think that was going to happen. And a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen just because it was motion controlled. And you may be like, well, Twilight Princess was motion controlled. Yeah, but this was so specific about the sword precision, or it was so built on the motion control and how the sword moved in the game that people didn't think they were going to be able to do it. But turns out we're getting it. It will have motion controls for the Switch. You can also turn them off and just play with your Pro Controller, your normal joysticks, Joy-Cons. So I'm excited. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I got a little distracted before the show. I was like, oh man, this is cool. I'm gonna dive into it. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm getting ready for this. So if you know Peacemaker, John Cena's character in the upcoming The Suicide Squad, as if that helps distinguish it between the other Suicide Squad that happened that was a train wreck. But James Gunn's Suicide Squad, John Cena is playing Peacemaker in that. So there's been additional castings. If you remember Allison Araya from Riverdale, and if you watch For All Mankind on Apple TV, Lenny Jacobson, they're going to be coming on to this HBO series with John Cena. And I like seeing John Cena ham it up. It seems like a role he's built for. Kind of playing a prick. I won't repeat the word that was used to describe him, but he's one of the world's biggest pricks or jerks. I'm saying that lightly. And so I'm excited to see how he does in Suicide Squad. But then this HBO Max series, it's an eight episode series that'll happen on HBO Max. It may not be a constant thing, but we'll see how well he does in Suicide Squad. See how well this show does. But those are 2 additional castings. They're going to be playing a couple, but no idea what that means yet. And something that came something that came in late for some more DC news. We got our first look at Superman and Lois. I apologize, I do not have the trailer for that. So we'll probably watch that another time. But if you liked the Superman and Lois from Supergirl and got to see them in Infinite Crisis, what I saw of the trailer before I got on here, it looked really good. I just didn't have time to get it uploaded on these for the show today. But yeah, again, it is a CW show, and y'all have heard how I feel about CW shows. They're not necessarily my most favorite. I think they're very hit or miss, or they do really well in their first season or 2, and then the melodrama just becomes too much in the later seasons. And so yeah, we will see. But I like what I saw so far, and this is not a knock on Henry Cavill as Superman, because I don't think it's his fault. But the Superman stories we've gotten with Snyder has just been dismal. So I'm hoping the movie Superman gets better. But hey, if TV Superman gives me what I want, I will also take that. I'm also down for that. Let's see. What do we got going? Taryn saying, oops, had the tab muted. You couldn't hear me? How could you? And little Anai in the background. Yes, she's all tuckered out over there. And trying to keep expectations really low and hopefully be pleasantly surprised. I would agree with that. You just keep it healthy, and don't get too excited, so you don't don't go too low, too high. Just we'll see what it is when it comes out. We talked about this. We either talked about it in the last Commander Shipp show, or we talked about it on State of the Union, but I am surprised by how many people still, and it was a running joke. I know it was a meme. Maybe this is the other thing, because I have talked about time travel in movies, and time travel in movies typically sucks. And it's not a knock on. You've also heard me rant on Back to the Future, so I won't use that as an example. Because my big pet peeve of time travel in movies is. You make your rules, just because if you try to do universal rules for everyone's got different thoughts on how they think time should work. So you're never going to meet that for every audience member. So what your best thing to do is just, here are the rules we have for our time travel. In the same way I would do for any other, if you think about Inception, that's not a time travel movie, but the dream has rules to how it works. And some people try to pick that thing apart and be like, no, it doesn't work because this thing. I'm like, they're pretty consistent with there might be 1 or 2 things that you kind of pick at a little bit and be like, I don't know if they stay. It's but generally there's no large plot hole based on the rules they set up in that world or that universe. And that's the same way I think about time travel in movies. Make your rules, you should stick to them as best you can. But typically what happens is something doesn't get communicated well, or they try to do one thing to, a little bit more, and then people's brains are like, wait, but that didn't seem like that lines up. So it just seems like time travel movies consistently have this issue over and over and over again. So I'm not surprised people were confused by what happened with Cap in Endgame, and I'm not surprised that came with memes and jokes and stuff after it of like, oh, he was just standing around while 9/11 happened, and he was, just kind of insert disaster, insert world event here. And what about Captain America's character would ever make y'all think that would happen? That's the thing that driving me nuts. And what about him in all the movies we've seen so far, even if you're not a comic fan, just what you've watched of him, Chris Evans, Captain America, in the movies, what in the world makes you think that as much as he wants to spend time with Peggy, that he would just, I'm not going to tell y'all about Hydra, I'm not going to help you root them out of the organization. Like, are y'all smoking crack? So no, that didn't happen. And the Russo brothers recently had been talking about how the time branches off and stuff before. They'd said this before. So this really isn't new. I thought it was cleared up, but they came out again to give a more definitive statement of saying no, Cap, when he had his time with Peggy, that was not in our world. That was not in our timeline. And I have to give kudos to the movie because they set up this branch idea, with they set up the branch idea when Hulk talks to the Ancient One, and they bring this up again when it's sorry, that's effectively what Cap did when he returned the stones. When he returned them, I don't know. So that's the kind of thing you can kind of speculate of, like, what order did he need to put them in order for things to, like, reset when he leaves that timeline. But Cap going back is him going back to that branch timeline they created to go get the stones. So remember, like, and I guess that's the other thing, like, where did y'all think he was doing? Do you think he, like, returned the stones and then stayed in Arts? Like, that doesn't, him going back is a new time, is a new branch, period. Done. Boop. New branch. Boop. Period. So anything after that, we can debate about how it happened or how it worked. But whatever he's doing is in a new, and I personally think he just waited until he's old enough, like, until time synced back up, and then, like, jumped back to our time to meet on the bench and give the shield back. So that's what I think happened there. But we can go into that in longer detail, but that's effectively what the Russo brothers were saying. It's like, no, there's no, the Cap you know and love would not have been sitting by idly while things, so he still got to enjoy his life with Peggy, but also, like, come on now. Now, the fan theory that ought to make you sad, then this is, so spoilers. I will put on the spoiler text that you all see it and are aware. So think about this for a second. This is going to get into WandaVision spoilers for a second. Someone was talking about Captain Marvel's short hair in Endgame. And again, this is not confirmed. So this is not a for sure thing. But they were talking about Captain Marvel's short hair in Endgame, and that given the timeline, because that short hair, because she's like a long hair in the beginning of the movie, that would have been at the before the 5-year mark. Then 5 years passed, she's got the short hair. And we know that Monica Rambeau's mother, dies 2 years before that point in Endgame. So it's entirely possible that Captain Marvel cut her hair in cancer solidarity with her friend. And I hate the fan that thought of that. And I don't know if that's going to end up being true, but I'm upset. I wish I hadn't read it because it's really good, but it's also very sad. So I'll take the spoilers down, and we'll get back to news topics. But yeah, that really bummed me out. I'm thinking that, that might be why it was short. That might have been a haircut in solidarity. Oh no! So again, not confirmed, but it would be very interesting if that happens. Okay, so we're gonna move from Steve and Peggy and get to my boo, Regina King, goddess, queen, and just all around badass. So let's back up. Black folk been done known that Regina King has been on a tear just her entire life. So I'm glad everyone else is finally catching up. They caught up during like Watchmen and one night in Miami. So that's great. But I mean, if you're as far back as like Boondocks, her voicing Huey and Riley, like it's just several different like sitcom projects and things before that in the 90s. Like Regina King's been on it. So this isn't a surprise to us in the Black community. But it's just very exciting to see her on this tear. And John Ridley has been kicking butt on FX and different movie projects for a long time as well. He's going to be penning a biopic for Shirley Chisholm. She was America's first black congresswoman who ran for Democratic, in 72? So ran for the presidential nomination, Democratic nom in 1972. And recently, Uza Aduba portrayed her in the FX limited series Miss America. So if you're like, haven't I just seen a biopic on it? That wasn't technically a biopic just on her, but you did see her cast and played in that TV series. And I can't find in my notes who, because before King took it, was going to be the one to sign on to this project. I think there was another biopic in the works, but I can't see. I'm going to have to find that later and get back. If I can't find it, I'll put it in the show notes for y'all. There was someone else that was going to end up playing it, but I cannot find it right now. But Regina King, not that you need my blessing, but you got it. I know you'll do fantastic with it. And like the hot streak that you've been on, you didn't just start. The hot streak you've been on, will just get to continue, and more people get to see your excellence. Very curious to see what happens Oscar-wise with One Night in Miami. This season's already going to be crazy. It's gonna be tough because of Ma Rainey and stuff going on as well. But director, she could. That's not. I don't think that's crazy. Getting best director. I don't know if One Night in Miami would get best film, but best director. I don't think that's crazy. So we will see. All right. So getting to more DC news. It seems like we're just on a DC roll. So you'd be forgiven for watching Suicide Squad and thinking that Jared Leto was a little. And if you'd read any of the on-set reports about Jared Leto, you'd also think that he's a terror to his co-stars. And apparently, we know the internet is a wild place that can run wild with all sorts of things. And while he did pull some pranks, he did pull some pranks. But apparently what it was is that Jared Leto was also kind of asking his co-stars to kind of embellish a little bit. It kind of became a running joke to kind of exaggerate what had happened. So did Jared Leto give Margot Robbie a rat? Yes, he most certainly did. But it's a rat that was alive. It wasn't a dead rat. Now she didn't end up keeping the rat, and ended up giving it to Guillermo del Toro, which I'm trying to figure out how that connection happened. It might be an Australia thing. But they ended up giving it to Del Toro, and you can see on a recent Instagram post, he's called it Vesicus Venetius is what he named the rat. So the rat is doing fine and well. Like, it's not, he didn't give the rat to Margot to like terrorize her or something. It was like actual gift. But because he's playing the Joker, it got blown out of proportion. So, yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, there was some on-set pranking. There were some things he did isolate himself from the crew to try to like help emulate that effect of the Joker being isolated from. Like, that would not have been a group that he would have been chummy with. That just wouldn't have happened. So those things are true. But putting dead rats and spoiled food into people's locker, like, that just didn't happen. That's the internet's imagination running wild. And I'm excited to see what happens with him in Justice League, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, just crazy how the internet can just run too far. Can run a little too far. Cool. All right. So Martin Scorsese has opened his mouth again, and he's of course right again. So if you're wondering why I'm making that reference, Scorsese would effectively call the MCU movies like roller coaster rides, and that they're really good for thrills, but not necessarily substantial pieces of cinema. And I know a lot of people got upset at that, and I know they made a ridiculous amount of money, but I never disagreed with that as a statement. And this is not about your enjoyment of the MCU or DC movies at all. And Taryn, also thank you for that. No, then in late 20, it was announced Denai Ganura would. Oh yeah, the Dora Milaje. Mm-hmm. It's a Black Panther connection there. That would have been cool. Seeing her play Chisholm, I think that would have been pretty sweet. Cool. Let me get back on Scorsese. Gosh, I could spend a lot of time on it. And we really need to. I feel like me and Tom talked about it a little bit when we were doing. I feel like we talked about his comments on the MCU a little bit, especially when it happened. But I feel like that was early 2020 or maybe late 2019. So I kind of wouldn't mind going back and revisiting that and kind of diving into those comments. But suffice it to say, my initial thing is like, I tend to agree with it. So again, that's why I made the comment about him opening his mouth again. And so this time he's talking about streaming algorithms. It might seem like a wild tangent, but I'll read a little bit of what he said. If you're thinking and fast forward to the present day, as the art of cinema is being systematically devalued, sidelined, demeaned, and reduced to its lowest common denominator as content. As recently as 15 years ago, the term content was heard only when people were discussing cinema on a serious level, and was contrasted with and measured against form. Then gradually it was used more and more by people who took over media companies, most of them who knew nothing about the history of the art form or even cared enough to think that they should. Content became a business term for all moving images. A David Lean movie, a cat video, a Super Bowl commercial, a superhero sequel, a series episode. It was linked, of course, not to the theatrical experience, but to home viewing on the streaming platforms that have come to overtake the movie-going experience just as Amazon overtook physical stores. On the one hand, this has been good for filmmakers, myself included. On the other hand, it has created a situation in which everything's presented to the viewer on a level playing field, which sounds democratic but isn't. If further viewing is suggested by algorithms based on what you've already seen, and suggestions are based only on subject matter or genre, then what does that do to the art of cinema? Curating isn't undemocratic or elitist, a term that's now used so often that it's become meaningless. It's an act of generosity. You're sharing what you love and what has inspired you. The best streaming platforms, such as the Criterion Channel, Mubi, and traditional outlets such as TCM, are based on curating. They're actually curated. Algorithms, by definition, are based on calculations that treat the viewer as a consumer and nothing else. Yeah. I mean, I know there might be people that would want to buck against that, but what are you gonna say against that? Because I can't. I mean, I maybe I need to reread it again to figure out what people would be upset with him on this time, but I didn't see an untruthful statement, any of that. And that is not to, like, I know now what people might come back if you're watching this live or if you're watching it later, you might be like, but I found this such and such movie scrolling through Netflix. All right, but that's not what he's talking about. So don't go on your anecdotal evidence about a indie flick or something like a smaller project that you found on a streaming platform. He's not saying they aren't on there, because he mentions that it helps him as well, because that streaming experience or that streaming platform has really allowed a lot of directors, first-time directors even, actually a movie I'm reviewing, a 40-year-old version, which is a fantastic movie on Netflix, about a screenwriter turned rapper in her midlife. It's fantastic, but it's also first-time, like, well, sort of first-time director. There's a great article with her explaining how much is factual in the movie as far as like her real life and what was kind of exaggerated or fictional. All right, but anyway, long story short, is that a movie that traditionally a lot of people would see? Probably not. It being on Netflix definitely helps it be seen by more people. But that still doesn't change the fact that you could very well never watch any of those, and then Netflix not suggest it as something that you should watch. It can still show up in the new releases on that panel for Netflix. But you also have to remember, your new releases that you see are also curated by Netflix as well. So they're going to be, and again, I'm using them as an example, can be other streaming platforms as well. Not to mention, me and Tom have talked also about how pieces of content are fractured across these different streaming platforms now. Because it used to be, there might be multiple places for some of your bigger pieces of content. Now that everyone's trying to create their own things, have their own services and things, we've got a lot more things kind of getting locked into containers or locked into these services effectively. So you got locked content on a certain platform, and that's all being curated a certain way. It's being suggested to you or by your preferences a certain way, but it's not necessarily being curated, right? And it doesn't necessarily have a long view of cinema history to pull back from and to like lean on to like suggest new things to you. I mean, we could a longer conversation, which I'll kind of tease and not dive into right now, which I think also bolsters Scorsese's point, is that older films that would be good suggestions based on your viewing habits, they don't even have that data because a lot of that has not been made available to streaming. So we talked about, I said the different streaming services have kind of cornered off what's theirs, And but that also means they have these huge back catalogs of older films that are just not making it on there if they weren't a big hit or big title. So there's also these things that if you don't know about them, you're not going to see them. You know, that's a man. I could spend a long time on this. I'll move on. But just suffice it to say, like, Scorsese's really hit on something here, and I feel like I need to dive into it. More. Won't do it here. Maybe shoot like a short video later this weekend and get into it. But I feel like it's a real problem that people are not aware of. Cool. And let's see. We're still gonna stay on Scorsese, but we're gonna get to his next project, Killers of the Flower Moon, which raised my eyebrows for a few reasons. So Jesse Plemons, if you remember the movie Game Night, he plays the officer that's been divorced from a friend that's in that friend group and acts very weird. He ends up being the orchestrator, part of the game or the crazy mystery night they play. And he got the lead role in this new Scorsese film, with Leonardo DiCaprio going to supporting role, which I found very interesting. Getting DiCaprio to step back. And again, even as I say that, I don't know that DiCaprio had the. At least that's how I'm reading this, is that DiCaprio had the lead, and then Jesse Plemons, Scorsese thought Plemons would be a better fit for this role. So I'm not sure. I'm not trying to say any DiCaprio doesn't have any. That's not at all. It's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just kind of curious about what the role is that DiCaprio will be better as a supporting character, and that Plemons is a good fit for this. So really excited about what is this? To add more intrigue onto it, he also turned down a role in a new Jordan Peele movie, which we're going to go ahead and go into this. Along with this news, Aquila and WB. That's not her real name. Sorry. Keke Palmer. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Keke. Aquila and WB was a. Wow, that was that's been a long. That's like an early 2000s movie. And it's got her and Lawrence Fishburne. I want to say Angela Bassett is in that as well. But the actress is Keke Palmer. Jesse Plemons turned down a role in that to be in a Scorsese film, and also Daniel Kaluuya may be in this film as well. It just this thing dropped, and Peele's got his hands on a lot of projects. So hearing that a new thing announced, but it sounds like this thing's already been underway for a bit. So it's like we're catching up to this movie, and we don't really have a title for it. But it's so far it's been it's been very hush hush, very secret movie. So we don't know what it is yet. I don't think it's going to be gargoyles as much as Jordan Peele has talked about wanting to do gargoyles. We talked about that on Monday. So again, if he wants to do it, I think he'd do a fantastic job of that. But I don't think it's that. And personally, I kind of want to see him not do a horror movie. Now maybe that's just what Peele's into, and he's like, I just really want to do creepy stuff. Cool, but I'm just interested. What else can you do outside of Get Out and Us? I really don't mean that in a harsh tone. I'm just kind of what other. Or can we go a little more psychological thriller maybe? Because I'd really love to see what he could do with that. So yeah, I'm not saying it's getting old. I'm just interested. I want to see what else he can do, because his things he's producing have turned out very well. Very curious what happens with Candyman. He just not directing that. A lot of people keep saying, Jordan Peele's movie. It's he's not the director for that. And I apologize. I don't know. Hey, Taryn, if you're out there on the internet still, can you find out who the director for the upcoming Candyman is, so I can give her credit, make sure she gets recognized? And it's not I get it. Putting Jordan Peele produced helps lend some cachet to a project, so I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying he's not the director for that, so it's not exact same. Cool. All right, what do we have next? Bum, 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 dum, bum. Nia DaCosta, thank you. Constantine is getting a reboot. and neither Matt Ryan, who played him in the TV series, and in the Arrowverse, especially in the Crisis of Infinite Earth, and Keanu Reeves' movie adaptation. So neither one of them seem to be coming back for this specific Constantine role that'll be rebooted by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot production company. So again, this would be one that'll be on HBO Max as a whole new HBO Max reboot. That said, there is some speculation that they may be doing some kind of crossover. So where they maybe some alternate versions of Constantine, ergo getting Reeves to come in and do Constantine from his version, getting Matt Ryan to come in and play his version, and that's at the end, like the mantle would be passed to the next Constantine in some form like that. That's not even saying really about the story; it's just more of like this crossover will happen with them, but it will end with a new Constantine. So, I mean, I was gonna have a hard time having them pick anyway because I like Matt Ryan and Constantine that much. So I'll be completely honest, like that was not gonna be an easy thing for me to sign off on anyway. So let's see what happens. So I'm excited, but let's see what happens. Cool. I was gonna do trailers next, but I would like to end the episode on a happier note. So I'm gonna get into Joss Whedon stuff now. And then we'll do trailers in WandaVision afterwards, just so that we don't have. It's just stuff I don't like talking about. But I mean, it's happening in my industry, and we need to discuss it because I've been reporting on it for quite a bit. So again, it's not to say be apprehensive about it, just being honest that it is a thing that can be exhausting on my end, but. Ray Fisher recently. So Ray Fisher plays Cyborg in the Whedon version of Justice League, and then came and did reshoots for Snyder's version. Was going to be in the Flash movie, got cut from that because of these allegations. And I don't want to hear anything about like, well, Warner Brothers just didn't want to. He got cut because he came forward. It's as simple as that. He got punished for coming forward, and they need to be taken to task for that. So he names Toby Emmerich and John Berg along with, so we known about Whedon, we known about Jeff Johns, and we known about Walter Haneda. So Whedon had been the one to come in to redo reshoots for the Justice League. Jeff Johns was the creative director for DC Films, and Walter Haneda was a Warner Brothers exec, or basically like the president for the DC section of films. But then John Berg and Toby Emmerich, I got thrown off a little bit by that, but I didn't know that like Toby Emmerich's been a producer for a long time with his own stuff, but Warner Brothers had been the folks distributing a lot of his movies. So that's why I was kind of confused. I was like, what do you mean? And then also I was just like, Roland Emmerich? Is that who you meant? Oh no, Toby. Yeah, okay. Got it. So he's calling out Toby and John Berg as well because of their executive producing on, not specifically on Justice League, but a lot of this seems to be about like allowing this to continue to happen, creating an atmosphere. So I mean, Haneda was the one that was called out specifically in the tweets and things before this point, and Ray Fisher had called out Haneda specifically during the investigation for withholding. Sorry, not withholding, but not being as forthcoming about the situation as he should have been. And so Jeff Johns in particular. So as much as things have been thrown on Whedon, we also need to call out Jeff Johns because Warner Brothers would like to get a clap on the back for Jeff Johns leaving, but they didn't actually do that. They didn't really do that. Jeff Johns got involved in some other. We probably need to do a thing about Jeff Johns, but he got involved in his own issues regarding harassment, not related to Whedon, but his own issues of harassment, and it subsequently left the DC film projects because of that. So no, Warner Brothers, you don't get credit for that because you, from what I understand, you knew about it and you didn't do anything about that either. So there's a track record of at least two offenders, Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon, and Warner Brothers has not taken proactive action on. And the other thing I think people need to keep in mind is, I think because of Firefly and Fox, people forget that that's not where Whedon got his start. It's with Warner Brothers. Because Warner Brothers is, before CW was the CW, it was the WB. That was a Warner Brothers network. That was a Warner Brothers station. Those were Warner Brothers shows. Buffy, that's a Warner Brothers show. And yeah, you might have watched reruns on the UPN, but that was a Warner Brothers show. Same thing for Angel. That was a Warner Brothers show. And then we know, like, when he got into Angel and started working, like, he was doing wrapping Buffy in the middle of Angel and starting Firefly with Fox. So he's kind of had his hands in like 2 Warner Brothers projects, and then was moving to do some things with Fox. But Whedon was the Warner Brothers poster child, star child, right? So as much as there may have been a ending with his shows and not necessarily getting those renewed, like Buffy and Angel, he's still he was our young golden child that was could quote unquote almost do no wrong. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when you think about, like, not just a boys club thing happening as well, but I think they're also financially and, like, historically hesitant to strike against Whedon, or to go against Whedon, having had that long history. That also brings up some other issues as far as, like how long have they known about the things that happened on Angel and Buffy? Because we'd heard rumors about that for a bit. Now that those things are coming out of the woodworks and getting confirmed, and this current administration for Warner Brothers is showing that they clearly hear things have happened, but they don't do anything about them. So that doesn't just come out of thin air. You don't just wake up having a problem dealing with accusations. So if you got people, if we have things happening right now on a Justice League set, back in 2017, and then we go back, and he's been working with you since the late 90s and going into the 2000s. Excuse me. How many people want to bet that some of the folks that have been around there still haven't knew about things back then and still didn't do anything about them or didn't care? We think about, like, Harvey Weinstein, and I'm not trying to say that's not trying to equate something better or worse. They're both problematic, and obviously Harvey Weinstein got to yield considerable more power than Joss Whedon has had or does have. But something that's very similar between both of them is enabling or a blind eye across both these incidents or both these situations, right? Because there's other producers that, I don't give a damn how powerful Harvey Weinstein is. There's other producers and other presidents that could have stepped in and stopped that. I mean, I get it. I know Weinstein's launched a bunch of careers. Like, I'm not belittling that, and I'm not trying to belittle the power that he had and could exert over folks. But there's still some other people with bigger bats, or bats just as big, that could have done something about that, right? So there's a lot of blind eyes happening here, and in particular in the Whedon case. Like, again, I get that he might have been your heir apparent as far as a director, but sorry, them's the breaks. You messed up. You messed up. And it's there also has to be a culture that enables people to come forward. So even if you if your next argument, if the next thing out of your mouth is going to be, oh, well, they didn't enable them. It's like, okay, but was there an environment that people felt comfortable to come forward? And that answer is demonstrably no, because we have Charisma Carpenter and others on those crews. They're just now saying something. I mean, I almost called out the Justice League crew when Ray Fisher was first talking about the allegations, because I'm like, did this happen in a vacuum? Were y'all not around? What's going on? So I mean, there also be a spirit of like a atmosphere of intimidation for anyone else to come forward as well. So while Ray Fisher may have felt encouraged or empowered to come forward, the rest of his co-stars may not have. So yeah, I'll give that in a nutshell. I do want to do a little more diving into execs in that 90s, early 2000s time period. See if there's some more threads there. And I think Taryn's also giving me thank you for that. I felt like it was going to be a good adjustment of the content. So thank you for that. Proper mood and pacing. Appreciate it. Yeah, Buffy till 2003, Firefly 2002, and Angel until 2004. Yeah. So he was with Warner Brothers for a while. Cool. So hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with Whedon. We currently have a rewatch with Firefly, which is like terrible timing. And because we did already pick that, we are going to go ahead and finish that. But yeah, we won't be picking another Whedon property. And we've also been talking, as we talk through episodes, been talking about anything that stands out to us in those episodes, as far as like, are there things that we know about his character that are apparent, or some of the problematic things people have been calling out since Buffy in the show, as far as just like the content of the show. It's like, are those things rearing their ugly heads as we rewatch Firefly? And the answer is yes, especially during this last stint of episodes that we just got through. So, all right, give me 1 second, folks. I've been talking a bunch. Cool. All right. That was. Dang it! Why can't people just be better? Be better. All right. So it's trailer time. So Sunday we had the Zack Snyder trailer come out for his Justice League cut. You've probably heard me wax poetic a lot about the audacity of Zack Snyder to say that this is a director's cut, because it's not. You don't have 4 hours of a movie, 2 hours of which weren't filmed before, and that be a director's cut. This is you filling in gaps and or creating new stuff that you wanted to do. And that's fine. I won't go into all that over again. We've heard, again, if you watch old shows, I've gotten into that. But suffice it to say, it could be cool. It might be a train wreck. I'm going to watch it. We'll review it and we'll get that out. We'll talk about it. But just the idea that this is, the idea that this could have been made with what was left, that's obviously not true of the things he's reshot and get CGI. But just the idea that like Warner Brothers wasn't going to let you do what you wanted in the first place. So it's easy to kind of throw Whedon under the bus for that one. There's other things we can hit him with, which we just did, but this ain't one of them. So, but again, let's I'll pop in the trailer for a bit. And some things that that's Cruella. Some things that immediately stood out is there's more shots of Apocalypse happening there. Well, actually, we start off with the ending of BVS, which has been reshot or re-edited. Because last time I checked, I don't remember some huge shockwave, which you see on screen right now, happening with Soups. Some key changes there as well. The room that contained the mother box falling off a cliff. Don't remember that in the previous one. So there's some things that are starting to stand out as changes. Diana's quest here, or finding more information, is definitely new. Again, actually getting some shots of Apocalypse, or that could be the nightmare dream as well. He could be on Earth and having already conquered Earth. There's our first shot of Steppenwolf. Or something else that stood out to me. We do get a lot more nightmare shots. The nightmare dream sequence in this shot. Something I want you to pay attention to at the end is going to happen rather quick. We get a bat tank. He's really trying to hammer home the Frank Miller Batman vibes. So it's not the same walker thing he had in the first Justice League movie. It's like an actual bat tank, but it's a very blink and you miss it kind of shot. And then get some black suited Superman right there. There goes the war. Ah, and there's the tank right there before the Flash. So good. Holy bat tank Batman. Exactly, Terry. And then some things that are looking familiar. Yeah, some things are definitely looking like the original movie. Okay, but I do like this. I do rather like this last shot. This last moment. Even though it's in the nightmare scenario, so it's probably not really going to happen. It's not a real thing. But that Joker looks cool. Again, so wasn't a fan of the tatted up Jared Leto Batman. Jared Leto Joker in Suicide Squad, but that Joker looks rather cool. So I could be down with that. I'm assuming that just means that the world has gone to shite, so they've got to work together on a particular, like, whatever they're trying to do to take down Supes. And again, we still don't know like how much of that's going to come true, or like how much of that can be averted. It seems like they've kind of leaning a little bit like on the Injustice storyline, where like Lois dying is the catalyst for that to happen. And in which case, it wouldn't make sense for the Jokers to still be alive. But again, I don't think it's a straight up. I don't think it's a straight up play from Injustice. I think it's just leaning on that a little bit of like, okay, if something happens to Lois, this is what could happen. Superman could go off, and it would lead to Darkseid easily coming in and winning, taking over the Earth. But yeah, we shall see. And guys, it's 4 hours though. Oh my gosh, it's 4 hours. I mean, when I know people are probably confused, like, how are you excited but you're also like groaning over it? It's just because I can't be comfortable with what I'm probably about to watch. That's what it is. If you want to know why I'm like, oh, I love it, but I'm confused, I'm conflicted, and I don't get it. That's it. That's what it is. It's literally just like, I want to see a good Justice League movie. But that number is terrifying. 4 hours? And I said this on Monday. I don't know if that's like 3 hours and 50 minutes, or if it's like 4 hours and 10, 4 hours and 15, because that also can make a difference, Looking at you, Peter Jackson, King Kong. Good Lord. It's too much. It's too much. I can't. It's too much. I can't do it. Things are a little more exciting. We're talking a trailer for Emma Stone's Cruella. And I like the look of it. The time period feel they got going there. Kind of like some wealthy elite debutante back and forth. So looks pretty cool. Or her trying to like fight for her status. Fighting for her status in the world could be very interesting. Maybe that's what makes her part of the Cruella that we know. I forgot which site did it. But someone said Glenn Close originated the role. And if you are talking about... Actually, sorry, let me pull it, because I want to get the voice actress that did the original. Who voiced? Betty Lou Gerson. Which a lot of you may not know. But just a fantastic... hey, also from my home state, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I didn't grow up in Chattanooga. I grew up in Nashville, Murfreesboro. Yeah, I love Glenn Close, but Cruella comes from animated first. So if I'm gonna say the word, I guess that's not what they meant. They're like, oh, originated the acting of it. It's Glenn Close. Sure, fine, but that's not my first impression of Cruella de Vil. It's animated first. Little tiff there. But yeah, it looks interesting. You know how I feel about prequels. Are they really necessary? Do we need them? This is definitely a cash grab on Disney's part. Get some extra dollars. And then if we are going to talk about Glenn Close, those are some big shoes to fill. So good luck, Emma Stone. Because even that article comparing her as well, like those are the shoes you've got to fill. So good luck. But yeah, I guess I'd be more excited about Disney prequels than I would be these Lion King, Aladdin reboots, the live action blah reboots that have just been bland and have offered almost nothing. So in this regard, yeah, I'd be very curious to see what Emma does with it. So we shall see, and that's coming out this year. No word yet if that's going to be streaming only on Disney Plus. I suspect by May it'll probably be a theatrical simul release, so in theaters and on Disney Plus for an additional fee. So that's what I'm predicting, because it's also the same month that Black Widow is supposed to come out. So I doubt they want both of those competing strongly with one another. So I'd have to imagine that they'll let people have the option or pick, but we'll see. As we know, the pandemic will force their hand either way, make them have to make a choice. All right, our last thing to talk about: WandaVision episode 6. And if you don't want to talk WandaVision, here is your warning to leave. I will put the spoiler banner back up, and I'm gonna pull myself a little bit center here. So I can quit being in the. Now that I don't have anything else to. Okay, cool. And here comes your spoiler warning. 5, 4, 3, and it's not even. Come on, Montgomery. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, if you again, this most recent episode, wow, she's pushing her powers far. We get some more information on the Hex. We gotten on some in the previous episode about how it's converting real things into it's twisting reality. We still don't know where the twins came from in that regard, but they may have had some counterpart that she changed to be the twins, which is a terrifying thought. Unless we'll get to some predictions here in a little bit, or because I think some of my predictions of who they could be is still in play. And shout out to Nando V Movies on YouTube, because I watched your prediction. I watched your theory on Pietro, and I don't know if I necessarily will, but we'll get into it. He calls out some good things, and I think some things I talked about, some theories I have, are still alive. But if you watch the episode, we get more and more information on the Sword director being up to some no good shit, and when Vision's trying to come, so Vision's lies about going on neighborhood watch so that he can go explore more of Westview. And I'll come back to the Sword director. I know I just said that, but I'll come back to the Sword director in a second. I'll link these two together. He goes and travels around to see. And if you watch this episode of Rick and Morty where they're stuck in the VR or in a simulation, and the computer's running out of memory, so they can only do so much to make the simulation work. And then if Jerry's one is so underpowered that people are saying a couple phrases and that's it, they're not really having full conversations. I feel like that's what's happening, is that Wanda has pushed her power so far to run almost 3,000 people, 3,800 people in the town, because she has to A, keep them under control so they don't try to run off, and then 2, give them things to do, because you can't just let them do their own things. Like, I'm guessing she, some psychic subroutines, so to speak, are like, hey, go do this thing, go repeat and do this. So you notice there's a person trying to push a swing that's not, or pushing a swing that's not happening, or a woman's trying to put up clothes and keeps repeating the motion. So I think her powers are kind of getting stretched. She's able to do it, but to keep this facade, it is there's limits to how far she can do it. Agnes, I still think she's going to be Agatha Harkness. And this is where I give the shout out to Nando, because there might be another player that we haven't identified, or it might be some of the people I called out before, like Mephisto, or and there's one other person that got called out that I didn't think about before. But Vision runs into Agnes being stuck in one of these loops, like they can't like think their way out of it, and she has a reaction to Vision because he does the thing he did to Norm and kind of releases her from Wanda's spell for a moment, and she's able to like communicate a little bit about what's going on, that she needs help from the Avengers, but then immediately gets concerned when Vision doesn't remember who he is, doesn't know he's an Avenger, doesn't know his past, because obviously he's been deadsy. Right. But Agnes, I feel like while she may be in on parts of it, because again, I don't think, based on how everyone else has acted, I don't believe she's just a Towns member. I'm sorry. Can't believe it. And also, her anniversary date is the same date as the Salem witch trials, the year and the date that it started, which is Agatha Harkness is attached to. So I don't feel like there's so many Easter eggs in this that I don't think they would have made an oversight like that to accidentally have that date in there. So I'm calling it. I'm sticking with that. She's Agatha. But I think she's also getting wrapped up in the Hex. So maybe she wanted to do something. Maybe she wanted to assist or do something terrible to Wanda. But the Hex has hampered her ability to do the things, right? Because you notice, even if I say Agatha knows a lot, or if I say that Agnes knows a lot, she's still having issues, right? She's still either she's playing along or she's saying she's having issues. Let's see. What are you saying, Taryn? Vision calls her out on you can't remember how to get a town square in the town you were born and raised in. But again, I think that might be Agnes coming to parts of the Hex. I think that might be what it is. So even though she's a powerful witch in the comics, we don't know what this version of her is going to be like. I think she can still be susceptible to things that are happening in the. I mean, again, I'm telling her that my first thought with her is that she's helping Wanda. That doesn't mean that she's not still under Wanda's spell, even if she's assisting her as a powerful witch. Because clearly, comic-wise, she ends up killing Agatha. Wanda ends up killing her. So Wanda's definitely much more powerful than her. So it would not surprise me. Dang it, I just had his name on my. Trying to remember who her son is. Nicholas Scratch. Sorry, gotta remember that name. I'll get back to it in a moment. Cool. The sword director. We find out he has the power. He knows where Vision's been. His based on his movements in the town, they're able to use that to know how many people exactly are in the town and how they've been moving, which would have been useful information and data for them to provide to everyone else, but he's been keeping it secret. So Vision tries to leave the Hex. That's also the same thing that's keeping him together, making him alive effectively. So when he tries to leave it, he's no longer real, or he's breaking his reality is within the Hex. When he goes outside, it's his reality is that he's the dead Vision. So he's parts of him falling apart, or the Hex version of him is being pulled back into the Hex while his dead body is going to be. And you're wondering why the sword director doesn't want to help him. I don't think it's just nefarious. I think he just wants the body back. So I think he could care less. Like, yes, he's a official for the government, so they are going to have to handle the bubble that Wanda's created eventually. But I think his first priority is I want that body back. And I think everyone has called the BS that they've called about his will and testament from ever since we heard it. Of like, why was his body in pieces then? If he said he didn't want to be turned into a weapon, why were you researching him? And that sword, no less. That stinks to high heaven. Again, so I feel like we've already known that. But I think some people might have been confused. Like, why wouldn't you try to go grab him? It's like, I think it's a let him come out, because we don't really care about Vision making it through this. We need the body to get out of the hex. Wanda loses it, blows the hex even further, and shout again. So this is where I'm going to shout out Nando again, because he calls out the carnival. And there's a huge carnival scene between Nicholas Scratch, who is Agatha Harkness's son, and is also another powerful sorcerer in the Marvel universe. And but it's like they lingered on that shot a little bit, and I think it's going to play a part in the next episode. But there's a fight. I forget what issue and things like that. But there's a fight that ends up happening in the carnival, and he ends up playing games with them. Like Wanda's children or Wanda's family or the Maximoff, like a whole Maximoff family. And here's where I feel like the things are going to fall apart, because it's going to be too much, and this is why I don't think they're exactly going to do it, and that's why I lean a little more towards Mephisto being behind parts of this, and not necessarily Nicholas Scratch. So this is where I kind of disagree with Nando, but him and me both had Mephisto in our list of people this could be. But he goes into this great detail about Quicksilver. That Quicksilver is acting a little weird. Even if you count for the face and you think about his performance in the X-Men movies or the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver from Ultron, he doesn't really have a problem with what Wanda did with the town. And I think Quicksilver would have an issue with that. He might be impressed by the powers. I don't think that statement is false. I think he is impressed by Wanda's powers. But I think, regardless of how cool he thinks that is, he's going to have a problem with the people that are being manipulated around. And to Taryn's comment, suddenly so many children, thing he calls out, why are you calling that out? Why do you care? That's the suspect. Why would you not care that she's holding people hostage, right? Because you need to remember, the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch from Ultron, while they end up getting, again, they want to work for Ultron, they want to get payback against the Avengers. That's specifically who they wanted to get payback against. They didn't want to get payback against the world. They just specifically had a vendetta with the Avengers because of things that Tony Stark had done and wars that have happened in Sokovia. They're not evil. They're not like evil people. This is not what happened. So the idea that Quicksilver would would be cool with all this, and then when he makes a dead body joke, that's like the smoking gun. So I don't really know who this guy is yet. I think it could be Mephisto in disguise. Nando's top pick was Nicholas Scratch, just because of the connection with Agatha, and I also think that would give. But Nicholas Scratch also is an agent of Mephisto, so somewhere we're getting into the underworld of Marvel somehow. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but if that ends up being true, you're still connected to Mephisto. Why is that important? Is specifically because of the twins. And this is why I don't think they're going to do an exact telling for telling of this. But, God, I forgot who the other guy... it wasn't Nicholas Scratch. There's another agent of Mephisto that has to go collect pieces of Mephisto's souls. And the twins... Again, we talked about the twins needing to be made of reality, so it couldn't just be she couldn't just make them pop into existence. They had to still come from something. So if she made a deal with Mephisto, he may have given pieces of his soul to be her children that she would take that and craft it into her children, like she did in the comics. I think that's too much. I feel like if they do that, people's brains would be like, wait, what? And then where a servant of Mephisto comes in is that Mephisto asks him to go recollect the pieces of his soul, which puts him in direct conflict with Wanda, and he ends up either taking the children or killing the children. I can't remember exactly. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Do I think there's a deal made, or maybe a forced deal? Maybe she didn't want to take the deal, and this is happening. She didn't want this to happen, because she keeps talking about even Wanda that has pieces of her memory missing, or there's something she's not acknowledging or hasn't talked about yet. So there's still something that's happened, and we talked about last week that there's some inciting incident that led her to go steal Vision's body. So we don't know what that was. And now I'm kind of wondering, is that even Wanda that took Vision's body? It could have been someone else in disguise. And for folks that are thinking like maybe a Loki appearance, I don't think that's. I think it's going to be Marvel Underworld characters. I think it's going to be their version of Hell, characters from that universe. And that I hope get us connected more and more to Doctor Strange and to that piece, into the chaos that's going to happen in that movie. So yeah, I know that doesn't necessarily give more motive or direction for what they want, because I still don't know for sure what that's going to end up being. But I don't trust this Quicksilver. Again, I thought he was going to legit just be a recasting of the Quicksilver. Not so fast. Now, for folks that are wondering, like, okay, but if he is Quicksilver in disguise, why wouldn't they just call Aaron Taylor Johnson up and be like, hey, can you play this guy instead of Evan Peters? I don't know. It could be he didn't really know what he looked like. We could really be in the multiverse stuff, and everything I just said was not correct. So again, obviously, because this is me speculating. I'm also curious, who is Monica's friend? You know, is there going to be another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent? Maybe we'll get an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crossover here. Maybe that role won't be that big. If it's Louise from Ant-Man, it'd be kind of cool. I'm just trying to think of what other aerospace engineers would she know that possibly we've met in the series before. So there's no one else really stands out yet. Or maybe we'll get another intro here, another drop of a new character. You know, maybe another X-Men character drops in. Maybe it's Beast has designed this contraption for her to be able to get back into the Hex. You know, that'd be a cool way to start plugging in some of these X-Men characters. So many are saying Monica's friend is Mr. Fantastic. But my only thing is, like, if you're going to introduce the Fantastic Four, it's kind of... This is the problem when you don't have your properties from the get-go, because Mr. Fantastic should be a major player in the Marvel Universe for a long time. Like, should have been, like... So, it feels weird that you're going to drop him in, like, oh, hey, he's been here, you know? Unless they're saying, is it still genius Dr. Richards, but he hasn't had the accident yet. Now, if that's the case, that could be interesting. Maybe it's like a younger, maybe you kind of set the time a little bit different. So it's like a younger Reed Richards, and they haven't gone into space and had the incident yet. Which also, to folks' points about, because if he's related to Sword, would help explain why he would be going into space and possibly have the cosmic rays hit him. We're getting into more cosmic stuff. So that, I like it. I like it. I just feels weird because, like, Reed Richards is like the dude. He's like the smart guy. He's the guy. And for him to not have been around and then just be like, oh, hey, just kidding. This guy was here the whole time. All right. Yeah. I don't think that works for me. His brain being around the entire time, sure. Him having powers and being like that. Yeah, I don't know if I'd buy that. So, or depending on how WandaVision ends, it is entirely possible that there's such a tragic or major upending at the end of WandaVision that a lot of things change. Folks, as soon as I saw Wanda's twins, as soon as I saw her kids, I'm like, God, are they going to kill these kids on this show? And man, what's going to happen if they do that? Because every time it's happened, or when it's happened in the comics, that has not been good for the world. I need y'all to remember that has not been a good thing generally for anyone when that happens. So we shall see. Cool. All right. Yeah, that's my WandaVision thoughts. I think I can safely turn these spoilers off. Taryn, thank you for talking with me through that. For the children. You know, and that's another... For the children is another thing that might be... Makes me think it might be Mephisto. Just because... Like, is it already doing it to protect the pieces of his soul, or make sure like he, his entities, that he's not words. I'm trying to say words. Yeah, that they don't lose pieces of Mephisto's soul. Like, there's a lot of different ways you could go with that. There's a lot. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. There's some different ways you can go with that. We only got 3 episodes left, so we got episode 7, 8. Yeah, we got 3 episodes left. All the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour long each. So everyone that's been like, these things have been too short, I don't want to hear anything now. It's going to be long. We got 3 hours worth of content left. All right. So you better enjoy it. And then I'll be excited for the inevitable rewatch to go see everything that we missed the first time around. You know. Cool. All right. Folks, that's all I've got today. So thank you for hanging with me as we do as we did a Wanda talk, get for all the movie news. As a reminder, you can check out our Patreon on our Facebook page, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you may be watching us. We have multiple tiers there if you want to support the things you see here, like on our live shows, or the upcoming video essays and content that we're creating and writing scripts for and been shooting this past month. We'll be releasing a lot of that here very soon. So Patreon users get that first, and then we end up putting it onto our YouTube for everyone else to enjoy afterwards. So Patreon helps get you first access and some nice perks and things like that. But again, if you like what you see, that also just helps us out immensely and helps us out a ton. So we definitely appreciate that. And yeah, we're Commander Shipp Show every Wednesday, usually with me and Major Tom together on the show. But again, wasn't feeling well tonight. What's up, girl? She's getting a stretch there in the background, so y'all getting to see dog stretches. Yeah, probably time to go out. All right. Yeah, we're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. You can catch State and Nerd Union, which is all-around nerd news, on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central as well. And we got a bunch of other shows and stuff coming out as well. We'll talk about more. Distracted me. Yeah, let me get off here and go deal with this very cute pup. All right. Until next week.